John.
Right now is the year 5919. This doesn't mean the world is 5,919 years old. It means that in the old world Anno Mundi system, which the original Freemason lodges use, they use the Anno Mundi system before they ever developed the Anno Lucius system. Take a step back. For those who don't know, Archaix, my brand, is an acronym, and it's Advanced Research of Chronological History of Artificial Intelligence X. My research began with the study of ancient calendars, ancient day count and timekeeping systems, and it was through this analysis that I made several discoveries about the history of the world, the unfolding of mythology, what these myths really meant, how these calendars act as ciphers, how these calendars are fixed in the field, and that we can navigate history forward and backward using these calendars. In 2011, I had a book published called Anunnaki Homeworld, and in that book, I set out to correct Zechariah Sitchin's Earth Chronicles because he made some critical errors. And one of the greatest errors that Zechariah Sitchin ever made was copying the same mistake that the Babylonian historian Berosus made in 2060 BC, where he claimed that a Shar was 3,600 years. This was a complete misunderstanding, and that Zechariah Sitchin used Berosus as an authority is pretty embarrassing, considering the fact Berosus was actually Greek, and the Shar is a Sumerian measurement of time that was already in disuse by 16 centuries before Berosus ever wrote about it. So the mistake crept in before Berosus, but the reason for the mistake is because the world that existed when the Shar count system was being used doesn't exist anymore. We don't have that world anymore. As a matter of fact, that world, which knew no sun, it doesn't mean the sun wasn't there. It means it knew no sun. Because just like Genesis, the book of Genesis gives us a window into that area, and it talks about a vapor covered the ground every morning and watered all the herbage and provided so much moisture it filled pools of water. But at nighttime, the vapor became a firmament above. At night, it magnified the stars. This is why in almost all the Native American traditions, the Inuit traditions, ancient Mongolian traditions, Southeast Asian traditions, we have these stories that the ancients believed if they could find a hill or a mountain tall enough, they could reach out and touch the stars. And if it's real quiet at night, you can listen, you can hear the stars singing. There was a period of time when the stellar traditions were the only traditions, and the only zodiacs that existed were lunar zodiacs. No one had ever even thought or conceived of a solar zodiac. It doesn't make sense to have a solar zodiac because when you go outside today and look up at the sky, the sun obscures your view of the constellations. What use or what utilitarian value would a solar zodiac have? So we have many misconceptions today about the ancient world, and it's because we transpose things that are factual today upon the template of the past. When it doesn't agree, it doesn't fit. And what I'm saying is we had a vapor canopy world in the ancient past. We've had vapor canopies a couple times since then as well. And there's proof of this in the fact that we have maps of Antarctica absolutely ice-free. The very existence of maps from the 15 and 1600s that show Antarctica's mountains, valleys, and rivers in the exact areas that the U.S. Geological Service has found in subsurface interface radar, the reason these maps are absolutely accurate is because in very recent antiquity, cartographers mapped Antarctica. So it couldn't have been in 10,000, 12,000 BC like Graham Hancock, Zechariah Sitchin, Billy Carson, and a lot of other people have espoused. There is no way that any type of cartographic evidence would have ever survived copies of copies through resets, through cataclysms, through earthquakes, through tsunamis, through shipwrecks, storms. None of that. It's just mathematically improbable, just like it's mathematically improbable for a man to live 500 years. In a 500-year period, you would have died by accident at least 10 times. This is how the math adds up. The Shar count system was simply exactly what it was described in the ancient world, a star count system. And the ancients counted how many turnings of the dragon there were. Today, I'm like 18,940 Shars old. That's how old I am. This is why on the Sumerian king list, the Sumerian king list is 241,200 Shars, but it only lists It only lists 8 kings. Well, 8 kings, if they live 241,200 years, like Billy Carson and Zechariah Sitchin espouse, well, that means each king ruled for about 48,000 to 60,000 years. It's absolutely untenable because these kings are spread through 3 dynasties, and there's no way that a dynasty, not even a stone city like Bad Tabira, Larak, or Shurapat could have ever survived that time. There must be a misunderstanding here, and we know there's a misunderstanding. I didn't have to make it up. In my own research, I cite all the ancient historians who corrected Berosus. So it's a real shame that Zechariah Sitchin didn't quote any of these ancient authors. I have quoted them, and I have so many facts. You would not believe Archaix is one of the most fact-checked channels out there. There are people dedicated to just trying to find me slip up on a fact. Yeah, that's all they do is try to find me misquoting a source or a citation. Yeah, there's hundreds of them all fact-checking me. The Shar was a day. Just like in the book of Genesis, the evening and the morning was the first day. Just like in the Dutch Oralind manuscript, one of the oldest manuscripts of Northern Europe, they didn't know the year. The ancients before the Cataclysm did not count years. They counted days. And this makes sense under a vapor canopy world, because a vapor canopy at night would turn the entire mesosphere into a gigantic sky-sized magnifying glass. This is why our myths and traditions name more stars than we can actually see with the naked eye. There are constellations that in mythology have more participants. There's more stars there. But with the naked eye, we can't see them today. But those stars are there. They're lower than the 4th and 5th magnitude. You can't see them with the human eye. So we have this, like the Pleiades. You see 6 stars with the Pleiades, but all the myths say there's 7 stars there, and there is a 7th star there. But without magnifying the area, you wouldn't see the seventh star. So we had this corroboration between ancient legends and myths and traditions, and the fact that we have these creation scientists, because there's 4 or 5 really good books out there that you can find about vapor canopy techniques. And I cite them all on my channel that I know of, about 5 of them. And the vapor canopy changes everything. They are created by volcanism. The mesosphere gets contaminated with volcanic particulates. Also with this red dust fallout from what I call the Phoenix phenomenon, which is a subject matter. It's a large piece of the puzzle in the history of the world, and it has everything to do with the unfolding of historical events, the rise and fall of empires, the vanishing of civilizations. I have whole data sets that show what academia has dated all these ancient epics and all these traditions, and these lacunas between these outbreaks of literacy, where literacy explodes and then all of a sudden it's gone for 300 years. And then when it reappears, it's more mythological and silly and cartoonish, and then it's gone for another 300 years, and then Homer appears, Theognis appears, Hesiod appears, we have Works and Days and the Odyssey and the Iliad, and then Greek civilizations emerges, and we're told from the uniformitarian perspective that it's a primitive society that's becoming more and more advanced. It's not the truth. The exact opposite of the truth is how we're educated today.